Breaking news. At 0426 Coordinated Universal Time this morning, a routine data downlink from the James Webb Space Telescope triggered an automatic priority alert across 3 continents. Within minutes, observatories in Chile, Hawaii, and the Canary Islands halted their scheduled observations and reoriented toward a single point beyond the orbit of Mars. What they saw was not noise. It was not an artifact. It was not a calibration error. Today, the impossible just happened. New images of the interstellar object known as 3I Atlas revealed structures and behaviors that no existing model had predicted. Moments ago, analysts confirmed that these images contradict every assumption made over the last 6 months. This changes everything we thought we knew. And if you want to stay ahead of the most important cosmic discoveries unfolding right now, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and enable notifications, because this story is moving faster than anyone expected. Within the first 30 minutes of the alert, encrypted channels between NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the European Space Agency's Space Operations Center in Darmstadt, and research groups at Harvard and Caltech lit up simultaneously. These were not casual exchanges. The subject line was the same across every channel. 3I Atlas, image discrepancy confirmed. The Atacama Large Millimeter Array in northern Chile, the Hubble Space Telescope in low Earth orbit, and the European Space Network's deep space antennas in Spain and Australia were all brought into the loop. The images had been independently captured across different wavelengths using different instruments from different vantage points, and yet they all showed the same thing. To understand why this moment matters, we have to rewind the clock. 48 hours before today's alert, 3I Atlas was considered stable, boring even. Its trajectory, while unusual, fit within a narrow band of interstellar object models. Its velocity relative to the Sun was measured at approximately 58 kilometers per second. Its thermal signature hovered around 220 Kelvin, consistent with an inert, non-reactive body coated in cosmic dust. Spectral analysis showed a muted red-brown reflectance, similar to long-period comets. In other words, it looked like exactly what we expected an interstellar visitor to look like. Then, 11 hours later, something changed. At 1712 UTC yesterday, the Atacama Array detected a subtle but persistent deviation in the object's acceleration. The shift was small, just 0.03 millimeters per second squared, but it was continuous. No outgassing plume was detected. No solar flare coincided with the change. Gravitational modeling ruled out planetary influence. The object was accelerating, silently, without any visible cause. 6 hours after that, Hubble recorded a color shift. The surface reflectance of 3I Atlas transitioned from deep red to a cooler metallic gray across a narrow spectral band centered at 1.6 microns. This was not a gradual weathering effect. It happened over the course of 90 minutes. No known natural process could produce such a rapid, uniform transformation across an object estimated to be over 400 meters in length. And then came the images. At 0358 UTC, the James Webb Space Telescope completed a scheduled infrared sweep. The raw data appeared normal at first glance, but when the frames were stacked and processed, a pattern emerged. The object was no longer irregular. Its outline had changed. The new images showed symmetry. Not perfect symmetry, but precise enough to be statistically impossible for a naturally eroded body. The long axis of 3I Atlas now displayed repeating geometric contours spaced at intervals of approximately 18 meters. Hot spots appeared at exact mirror positions along its surface, each measuring nearly identical temperatures within a margin of 0.2 Kelvin. This was no longer random. It was controlled. I remember staring at the data feed as the realization set in. The room was silent. No one wanted to say it out loud. Because the images weren't just showing us what 3I Atlas
24
was.
hours before the
showing
alert,
us
simulations at
what it was
Caltech had already begun flagging inconsistencies. Dr. Elena Moravec, a computational astrophysicist specializing in non-gravitational dynamics, noticed that every model assuming a natural composition failed after the most recent trajectory update. The residuals weren't noisy, they were patterned. When the team overlaid the acceleration data with the thermal maps, the peaks aligned perfectly. At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, a separate team ran independent gravitational perturbation models using updated solar wind parameters. The results were identical. Whatever was influencing 3I Atlas was internal. By 0900 UTC, ESA analysts introduced a conservative hypothesis: delayed volatile release from subsurface pockets. But spectroscopy immediately challenged this. No water vapor, no carbon monoxide, no cyanogen. The emission lines simply weren't there. Instead, radio observatories picked up something else. At 1143 UTC, the European Space Network's antenna in New Norcia, Australia, detected faint electromagnetic pulses originating from the object's direction. The pulses were weak, barely above background noise, but they were regular. One pulse every 11.2 seconds, then a pause, then another sequence. When the intervals were plotted, they formed a pattern: 2, 5, 7, prime numbers. At first, analysts assumed coincidence. Statistical clustering happens. But when the pattern repeated across multiple observation windows, coincidence became explanation resistant. The pulses were not powerful enough to be a broadcast. They carried no modulation, no data packets, but their timing was precise to within microseconds. This was no longer an imaging anomaly. It was behavior. Within hours, two camps formed. The first, led by Dr. Samuel Keene at Harvard, argued for an exotic natural explanation. Perhaps a previously unknown phase transition in interstellar ice, perhaps a magnetically active core interacting with the heliosphere in ways we don't yet understand. The universe, after all, has surprised us before. The second camp was quieter. At Caltech, Dr. Rena Solis ran a comparative analysis using archived data from Oumuamua and 2I Borisov. The similarities were uncomfortable. Non-gravitational acceleration, unusual shapes, lack of outgassing, and now, with 3I Atlas, structured emissions and geometric surface features. This isn't debris, one internal memo read. This is architecture. Then came the second wave. At 1906 UTC, one of the thermal hotspots vanished. Not cooled, vanished. Its infrared signature dropped to background levels in under 30 seconds. No debris trail, no radiation spike. It was simply
Simultaneously, the object's rotation rate changed from a slow tumble of once every 7.4 hours to a stabilized rotation of exactly once every 8.0 hours. Stabilization requires energy, direction, control. This contradicted every natural hypothesis proposed so far. In mission control rooms across the world, screens flickered as new data streams came online. Analysts whispered, phones vibrated with secure messages. Governments were notified, quietly. No public statements were made. On Earth, subtle effects followed. Low Earth orbit satellites reported brief communication dropouts over the South Atlantic anomaly. Radio astronomers in Japan noted unusual ionospheric fluctuations. Even migratory tracking data showed minor deviations in bird flight paths across Eastern Europe, shifts measured in degrees, not kilometers, but enough to raise eyebrows. No one claimed causation, but no one dismissed correlation either. As the hours passed, the images kept coming. Higher resolution, deeper contrast, and with them, clarity. The latest composite shows that 3I Atlas is no longer shedding mass randomly. It is redistributing it. Dense regions appear to migrate along its structure over time, like internal components repositioning. The total mass remains nearly constant, but its configuration does not. Maybe we're not witnessing the end of something. Maybe we're witnessing the beginning of a process. I find myself thinking about how often humanity has looked at the sky and assumed passivity. Rocks, gas, fire. But the universe has a habit of blurring the line between natural and intentional, between object and actor. The new images don't show weapons, they don't show engines, they don't show anything we can definitively label as technology. What they show is order. And order, in a universe defined by entropy, is never trivial. As I speak, teams are preparing the next observation window. More data, more clarity. Or perhaps more questions. Because if 3I Atlas is changing now, it may change again. And next time, it may not do so quietly. So we end with this. If these images are not illusions, not artifacts, not coincidences, then what exactly are we looking at? A rare natural phenomenon we've never seen before? Or the first clear sign that something out there is not just passing through, but adapting? Subscribe to stay with us as this story unfolds, because whatever 3I Atlas is, it's not finished showing us what it can do. And the next update may force us to redefine what it means to observe the universe rather than simply exist within it.